Nikola Tesla had an obsession that his rivals couldn't understand and his enemies feared. He was fixated on three numbers: 3, 6, and 9. Not casually interested, obsessed. He would walk around buildings 3 times before entering. He demanded hotel rooms with numbers divisible by 3. He used exactly 18 napkins at dinner, 3 times 6. People thought he was losing his mind. But Tesla wasn't going insane. He was seeing something that most people are completely blind to. He was cracking a code that governs how reality itself operates. And here's what makes this terrifying to anyone who understood what Tesla was actually doing. He wasn't practicing superstition. He was applying mathematics. He had discovered a pattern woven into the fabric of existence itself, a pattern that appears in everything from the spiral of galaxies to the structure of your DNA. And he realized that if you understand this pattern, if you align yourself with it, you stop fighting against the universe and start working with its fundamental architecture. You stop forcing and start flowing. You stop struggling and start creating. Tesla once said something that most people quote, but very few actually comprehend. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Everyone nods along like they understand, but what Tesla actually meant was this: reality is not solid. Reality is not fixed. Reality is frequency. It's vibration organizing itself into patterns. And the pattern that governs all other patterns, the master code running beneath everything you see, is 369. His competitors in the world of invention and energy dismiss this as eccentricity. They thought Tesla's brilliance was being corrupted by mystical nonsense, but they were wrong. Tesla's obsession with 369 wasn't distracting him from his work. It was the foundation of his work. It's how he could envision inventions that seemed impossible. It's how he could see solutions that eluded everyone else. He wasn't just smarter than other inventors. He was operating from a different understanding of how reality functions at the most fundamental level. And the people who truly understood what Tesla had discovered, the ones who saw the implications of what he was saying about energy and frequency and this numerical pattern, they didn't dismiss him as crazy. They feared him. Because if Tesla was right, if 369 really was the key to understanding and manipulating the structure of reality, then everything they thought they knew about physics, about power, about control, was built on incomplete understanding. Tesla was threatening to reveal that the universe operates on principles far more elegant and accessible than the complicated systems they'd built their empires on. Think about what that means. If there's a pattern underlying all of reality, and you can learn to recognize it, align with it, use it, you're no longer at the mercy of randomness. You're no longer hoping that things work out. You're working directly with the code. You're speaking the language that the universe itself speaks. And when you speak that language, reality responds differently. Not because you're special, but because you finally learned the grammar of creation. Tesla saw this pattern everywhere. In mathematics, he noticed that when you perform certain operations, 3, 6, and 9 behave differently than all other numbers. They form their own system, their own loop, separate from the physical numbers. And he realized this separation wasn't a mathematical curiosity. It was showing him something profound about the architecture of existence. There's the physical world, represented by certain numbers, and then there's the organizing principle behind the physical world, represented by 3, 6, 9. He looked at nature and saw the pattern repeating. The way plants grow in spirals, the way water moves in vortexes, the way galaxies spin, the same pattern. 3, 6, 9. Over and over. Not randomly, not coincidentally, systematically. Like a signature written into the code of the universe itself. His enemies weren't afraid of a superstitious eccentric. They were afraid of a man who had found something real, something reproducible, something that could change everything. Because if Tesla could harness this pattern, if he could build technology based on this understanding of how energy and frequency actually organize themselves, he would make their systems obsolete. He would reveal that there are simpler, more elegant, more powerful ways to work with energy than the complicated industrial models they'd invested everything in. They sabotaged him. They stole his patents. They made sure his most revolutionary ideas never saw full implementation. And when he died, certain governments and corporations rushed to seize his papers, his notes, his research. Why? Because buried in Tesla's obsession with 3, 6, 9 was knowledge that threatened power structures. Not because it was dangerous, because it was liberating, because it suggested that ordinary people, understanding this pattern, could access capabilities that were supposed to belong only to those with massive resources and institutional backing. But they couldn't suppress the pattern itself, because it's not hidden, it's not secret, it's woven into everything. The pattern is always there. Tesla just learned to see it clearly and use it consciously. So what did Tesla actually see when he looked at 3, 6, 9? What pattern did he discover that made him realize these numbers were different from all the others? Because this isn't about lucky numbers or sacred numerology. This is about mathematics revealing something profound about the structure of reality itself. Start with something simple. Take any number and keep doubling it. 1 becomes 2. 2 becomes 4. 4 becomes 8. 8 becomes 16. And if you reduce each number down to a single digit, something strange happens. 16 becomes 1 plus 6, which equals 7. Keep doubling. 32 reduces to 5. 64 reduces to 1. And if you keep going, you get a sequence 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. Then it loops back. 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. Over and over. An infinite pattern. But here's what Tesla noticed. That pattern never touches 3, 6, or 9. Ever. No matter how long you continue the sequence, no matter how many times you double, you cycle through 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5 eternally, and 3, 6, 9 exist in a completely separate system. They're not part of the physical sequence, they're something else. Something governing the sequence from outside of it. Now do the same thing with 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12, which reduces to 3. 3 times 2 is 6 again. No matter how many times you double starting from 3, you only ever get 3 and 6. Never 9, but 9 has its own behavior. Any number multiplied by 9 reduces back to 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 1 plus 8 equals 9. 9 times anything always returns to 9. It's complete unto itself. Tesla realized he wasn't looking at random mathematical quirks. He was looking at a map, a blueprint. The numbers 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8 represent the physical world, the manifested realm, matter, energy, the things you can touch and measure. But 3, 6, 9 represent something else entirely. They represent the field that organizes the physical, the pattern that tells the physical how to arrange itself. They're not in the matrix. They're creating the matrix. And once Tesla understood this through mathematics, he started seeing the same pattern everywhere in nature. Plants grow in spirals following the Fibonacci sequence, where each number is the sum of the previous 2. And when you examine the Fibonacci sequence closely, you find 3, 6, 9 appearing at specific intervals, governing the rhythm of the entire pattern. Look at sacred geometry. The shapes that appear everywhere, from atomic structures to ancient architecture. The flower of life. The patterns that show up in temples and cells and snowflakes. When you analyze these geometries mathematically, 3, 6, 9 relationships are fundamental, not decorative, structural. The geometry of existence itself is built on this pattern. Tesla studied frequency and vibration because he understood that everything is ultimately energy moving in patterns. Sound creates visible patterns when you play frequencies through sand or water. This is called cymatics. And certain frequencies create perfectly organized symmetrical patterns, while others create chaos. The frequencies that create the most coherent patterns, they often have 3, 6, 9 relationships in their harmonic structures. The universe itself seems to prefer these numbers when organizing energy into form. Even time follows this pattern. A day is 24 hours, which reduces to 6. A year has 12 months, which reduces to 3. Lunar cycles, solar cycles, the orbits of planets. When you reduce them to their digital roots, 3, 6, 9 appear with remarkable consistency. It's like the universe is keeping time using a specific rhythm, and that rhythm pulses with these numbers. Tesla wasn't interested in this as an intellectual exercise. He was interested because he understood something crucial. If this pattern governs how energy organizes, how frequency builds, how creation happens, then aligning with this pattern means you're working with the fundamental forces of reality instead of against them. Think about what resonance means in physics. If you have a guitar string tuned to a specific frequency, and you play that exact frequency nearby, the string will start vibrating on its own. You didn't touch it, you just matched its natural frequency, and it responded. This is resonance. Energy amplifying energy through harmonic alignment. And Tesla realized that 369 is the resonant frequency of creation itself. When you align your intention, your focus, your energy with this pattern, you're essentially tuning yourself to the frequency that reality already operates on. And just like that guitar string, reality begins to respond, not through magic or divine intervention, but through simple physics, through resonance, through the natural amplification that happens when frequencies align instead of clash. This is why Tesla could envision inventions that seemed impossible to everyone else. He wasn't just smarter. He was thinking in resonance with how energy actually wants to move, how systems naturally organize. He wasn't forcing solutions. He was recognizing patterns that were already there, waiting to be seen. So if 369 is the pattern woven into reality itself, how does that translate into your actual life? How does mathematical pattern become manifestation? Because this is where most people get lost. They understand the concept intellectually, they find it fascinating, and then they have no idea what to do with it. Here's what Tesla understood that most people miss. You don't create using 369. You're already creating with it. You've been using this pattern your entire life without knowing it. Every thought you've had, every emotion you've felt, every action you've taken has been moving energy in patterns. Some of those patterns aligned with the universal code and things flowed. Some of those patterns fought against it and things struggled. But you were always working with frequency, with vibration, with pattern. You just weren't doing it consciously. The shift happens when you stop being unconscious about it. When you start recognizing that your focus isn't just attention, it's frequency. Your emotion isn't just feeling, it's amplification. Your persistence isn't just stubbornness, it's resonance building over time. Think about how things actually manifest in your life. You think about someone you haven't spoken to in months, and they text you that afternoon. You need specific information, and you randomly overhear exactly what you needed. You have a problem with no clear solution, and the answer appears from a completely unexpected direction. These aren't accidents. These are moments when your frequency aligned with something in the field, and reality organized itself to deliver resonance. Now imagine doing that on purpose. Not forcing it. Not performing rituals hoping for magic, but understanding that when you hold a clear intention, when you charge it with genuine emotion, when you return to it consistently, you're not wishing into the void. You're broadcasting a frequency. And if that frequency aligns with the pattern the universe already uses to organize energy, the universe doesn't resist. It resonates. It amplifies. It delivers. 3 represents initiation. The spark. The beginning of creation. When you plant an intention, when you declare what you're aligning with, you're activating 3 energy. You're saying to the field, this is what I'm creating, not hoping for, not asking permission for, creating. And the field doesn't judge whether you deserve it or whether it's realistic. The field just receives the frequency and begins organizing around it. 6 represents the heart, emotion, the magnetic force that attracts. You can think about something all day long, but if there's no feeling behind it, there's no magnetic pull. But when you feel it, when you generate the emotion of already having it, of already being it, you've added the carrier wave. Now your intention isn't just information. It's information riding on a powerful frequency that the field can't ignore. 9 represents completion, the fullness, the moment when something that existed as potential collapses into physical reality. 9 is the number that contains all other numbers. Any number multiplied by 9 returns to 9. It's the culmination, the harvest, the manifestation. And when you reach 9 energy, you're not trying anymore. You're not hoping anymore. You're complete. You already have it energetically, and the physical is just catching up. This is the rhythm of creation that Tesla saw in everything. Beginning, amplification, completion. 3, 6, 9. Not as steps you perform, but as phases that naturally unfold when you're aligned. You initiate clearly. You feel deeply. You trust completely. And the pattern takes care of the rest, because that's what the pattern does. It organizes chaos into form. It takes potential and makes it actual. It translates frequency into physical reality. If you're starting to see 3, 6, 9 everywhere now, if you're beginning to notice the pattern in things you never paid attention to before, write 369 in the comments. Not as a magic spell, as an acknowledgement. You're recognizing the code. And recognition is the first step toward conscious alignment. Tesla's life changed completely after he discovered this pattern. Not because he started performing rituals or following superstitious practices. His life changed because he started seeing reality differently. And when you see reality differently, you move through it differently. You make different choices. You notice different opportunities. You respond to circumstances from a completely different understanding of how things actually work. Before this understanding, Tesla was brilliant, but struggling. He had ideas, he had vision, but he was constantly fighting against the limitations of conventional thinking. But once he recognized the 3, 6, 9 pattern, once he understood that he wasn't crazy for seeing connections that others missed, once he realized that the universe itself operates on principles that most people are completely blind to, everything shifted. He stopped trying to make people understand. He stopped forcing his inventions to fit into existing frameworks. He started trusting what he saw, even when it contradicted accepted scientific knowledge, because he had found something more fundamental than contemporary science. He had found the underlying code. And this is what happens when you truly understand what 3, 6, 9 represents. You stop looking to external validation to tell you what's possible. You stop waiting for permission from people who are still operating in the old paradigm. You start trusting your own resonance. You start noticing patterns that others dismiss as coincidence. And you begin to realize that what you call intuition is actually your consciousness recognizing the pattern before your logical mind can articulate it. Synchronicities stop being random and start being confirmations. You think about something and it appears. You need something and it shows up from an unexpected direction. Before you understood the pattern, you might have noticed these things and thought that's weird and moved on. But now you recognize what's actually happening. Your frequency matched something in the field. Resonance occurred. The universe reflected back what you were broadcasting. You start making decisions differently. Before, you might have asked, is this realistic? Or what will people think? Now you ask different questions. Does this align with the frequency I'm cultivating? Does this resonate with the pattern I'm building? And those questions lead to completely different choices, which lead to completely different outcomes. People around you might not understand the shift. They might see you turning down opportunities that look good on paper because you can feel they're out of resonance. They might see you pursuing things that seem impossible because you can sense the pattern aligning. And they're right. You have changed. You're no longer making decisions based on fear or hope. You're making decisions based on resonance, on pattern, on alignment with the fundamental frequency of creation. The reason Tesla's enemies feared this knowledge wasn't because they thought it was nonsense. If they believed it was nonsense, they would have ignored him. But that's not what happened. Instead, they sabotaged him. They stole his patents. They cut his funding. They made sure his most revolutionary ideas never reached the public. And when he died, multiple government agencies and powerful corporations raced to seize his papers. You don't desperately confiscate the ravings of a madman. You confiscate knowledge that threatens your position. What threatened them wasn't Tesla's inventions, as revolutionary as those were. What threatened them was the implication behind those inventions. Because if Tesla was right, if 369 really was the fundamental organizing pattern of reality, if energy really could be understood and worked with through resonance rather than brute force, then everything they'd built their empires on was unnecessarily complicated. deliberately complicated. Complicated in ways that kept people dependent, kept them paying, kept them believing that access to energy, to power, to creation itself required massive infrastructure and institutional permission. Tesla was showing that you could work directly with the pattern, that you didn't need enormous industrial systems if you understood resonance. That energy wanted to flow freely, and the only reason it seemed scarce and difficult was because people were trying to control it using methods that fought against how energy naturally moves. He was proving that complexity isn't sophistication. Sometimes complexity is just confusion being sold as necessity. This is what happens whenever someone discovers something truly fundamental. The discovery itself isn't the threat. The threat is what that discovery reveals about everything else. If 369 is the pattern underlying creation, then why is manifestation taught as something difficult and mysterious? If reality responds to resonance, then why are people told they need intermediaries, experts, institutions to access their own creative power? Tesla threatened to collapse those hierarchies, not through revolution or ideology, but through demonstration. By showing that when you understand the pattern, when you align with how energy actually works, impossible things become simple, not easy necessarily, but simple, clear, direct. And that simplicity is dangerous to anyone whose authority depends on convincing you that you need them to navigate complexity. The same pattern plays out today. You're told that manifestation is complicated, that you need the right training, the right teacher, the right secret technique, that some people have the gift and others don't. And all of that is designed to keep you dependent, keep you searching, keep you believing that the power to create your reality is somewhere outside yourself. But what if it's not? What if the pattern is right here, available, woven into everything you see? What if you don't need permission to align with it? What if resonance isn't something you have to earn through years of study, but something you can recognize and work with right now because you're already made of it? When you start working with 369, when you recognize the pattern and align with it, you're not just manifesting things. You're reclaiming sovereignty over your own creative process. You're stepping out of the systems that told you creation was complicated and required their mediation. You're proving to yourself that the universe responds directly to resonance, to pattern, to alignment. Tesla lived this. He saw the pattern, aligned with it, and created from it regardless of who approved or understood, and they destroyed him for it in many ways. But they couldn't destroy the pattern. They couldn't erase what he discovered, because the pattern is universal, and universal means it doesn't play favorites. It doesn't require credentials. It just requires recognition and alignment. You're standing at the same crossroads Tesla stood at when he first recognized the pattern. Not the crossroads of believing or not believing, the crossroads of using or ignoring. Because now you know. You've seen the mathematics. You've heard about the pattern in nature. You understand that 369 isn't mysticism, it's structure, and knowing changes you. Tesla chose to build his entire life around what he'd discovered. Every invention, every vision, every impossible thing he brought into reality came from alignment with this pattern. He didn't use it occasionally when he felt like manifesting something. He lived from it. He saw the world through it. He made decisions based on resonance, not convention. You have the same choice now. You can treat this as interesting information, something you learned and found fascinating but don't really integrate. Or you can do what Tesla did. You can start living from the pattern. You can begin making choices based on what resonates rather than what's expected. You can align your energy, your focus, your intention with the rhythm that creates worlds. And here's what happens when you make that choice. Not immediately, not overnight, but progressively, unmistakably, you start noticing that reality responds differently to you. Things that used to feel like struggle start flowing. Opportunities appear from directions you weren't even looking. The right people show up at the right time. Solutions present themselves before you've fully articulated the problem. You stop forcing. Not because you've given up, but because you've found something more effective than force. Resonance, alignment, moving with the pattern instead of against it. And moving with the pattern doesn't mean you become passive. Tesla wasn't passive. He was one of the most productive, driven, focused people who ever lived. But his drive came from alignment, not desperation. This is what becomes available when you stop treating 3, 6, 9 as a curiosity and start treating it as the code it actually is. You begin to feel when you're in resonance and when you're out of it. You start making micro adjustments based on that feeling. You choose the conversation that resonates over the one that feels forced. You pursue the opportunity that aligns over the one that just looks good on paper. And those choices compound. Pattern builds on pattern. Resonance amplifies resonance. If you want to go deeper into this, if you're ready to not just understand the pattern but live from it, to integrate this with everything else you know about manifestation and consciousness and quantum reality, there's a complete system in the ebook, Awaken Your Quantum Power. You'll find it in the pinned comment. It's where all of this comes together, not just 3, 6, 9, but how it combines with other universal principles, how you navigate when things feel stuck,